things we like to do is name things. And we think that by calling things different things, it matters. So we name things learning health, what are they called? Learning healthcare systems. I don't know what healthcare system hadn't been learning prior to calling it a learning healthcare system, or any organization that doesn't learn. Any organization that doesn't learn from what it does collapses. So we now call it something, and it seems to be another category. We call subjects participants as if that matters, that changes the category. So we create a new language to make it think that things matter, and it's a distraction. The So there is certainly a trend to try to have research be less and less regulated, and this is part of that trend. Um, and the argument that's often made, and you see it in the recent work of, I can't remember who it was now, Nancy Cass, I think, yeah, from Hopkins on about research, and talks about how, research isn't more risky than regular medical care. Um, but in my opinion, that entirely misses the point, that I don't remember anyone thinking research was more risky. It was just more exploitative. So that if you do a liver biopsy on somebody for treatment, and you do a liver biopsy on someone who can't benefit at all but for research, the risks don't change at all. The risks are exactly the same. The reason why we're concerned about the risk of the non-therapeutic intervention is because that's not how you're supposed to treat human beings. It doesn't have to do with the risk. Um, and we more and more forget why we regulate research. And the primary reason is not because of the risk. So if you look at Tuskegee, for example, those men weren't at risk. They were just harmed. It wasn't like a risk of harm. It was like harm. They were used as a means to an end in the most grotesque way, but not because they were at risk. And and if you look at Beecher's work, it's not that people were at risk; they were just misused. That's why there are regulation of research. Um, you know, People like to make believe that research is good for subjects, but it's not true. And people like to make believe that researchers care about subjects as much as their physicians, and that's not true either. And it can't be true. These aren't. Um, this isn't because I think these are bad people. It has to do entirely with social role. So that if you're someone's doctor, you would never do a liver biopsy on them unless they needed it. Ever, right? You wouldn't even think about that as a possibility because your job is to take care of that person. And if you're a researcher, you will. I mean, even if you're that person's doctor in another context. And because researchers' job, it's not because they're bad, but their job is to use people as a means to an end, is the reason why research is regulated, as opposed to healthcare, in which the doctors are supposed to see the patients as ends, and the patients see the patients um, as ends. So it's very dangerous, I think, for philosophers to be going around saying, and philosophers saying this, the reason why you regulate research is because people can be harmed, as opposed to thinking of the much deeper and much more difficult question of the appropriate use of human beings in order to create benefit for other human beings.